Hello, everybody. This is Bart Sharp at Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7 and 105.3 out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. Not only are we broadcasting out of New Orleans, but we are broadcasting over our internet station at UPRN. You can catch us on the web, but also you can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, and of course now on Roku. So this means that we have to wear shirts on the show because we are being seen on television and comb our hair and all of that good stuff that makes television different than radio. We're really glad to be here in Austin, Texas, as my guest is in North Austin and I am in South Austin. And there's no rivalry here, but just mutual admiration for my guest today, Jeneth Blackert. She is an amazing creator, and she has had just some really dynamic consciousness / business education seminars, trainings, DVDs, and also has written a really wonderful book called Falling in Stilettos. But what I really like about Jeneth is she is just a grand and glorious creator that really sees wealth, business, money as a holistic concept. We can't always do it by the numbers, and we can't always do it by that horrible four-letter word that we all do, which is work. It's so much more than that. So thank you for being on the show, Jeneth, and welcome.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. You, to me, you emulate that aspect in business or coaching as you are a business coach, but probably also a life coach. But I always see you just much more than a life coach. You help people in various ways. And I love this feeling of that, it's the frequency of wealth is what the title is today. And so what does that mean to you?
Well, so I was pretty much built for wealth. My father kind of passed down habits. And within those habits, I kind of couldn't be anything but a money magnet. And I'll share some of those with you. But what I also found along the way when I started my business about 15 years ago was that nobody is taught how to be with money. Some people are taught the how to around money. But I really found that a lot of the reasons that people can't create wealth, can't save money, can't feel secure investing money is because of how they see money and their point of view around money. And one of the things I came along in this journey and coaching people for many, many, many years is that maybe we need to focus on profitability and the frequency of profitability instead of asking for money. Because even if we would get money, in a lot of cases, people will squander it or something will happen in their world. But I don't really believe as a quantum creator that anything ever happens to us.
It's kind of like desperation that people come from that place. As awareness is, where did you just use that I love? The frequency of profitability.
Yeah.
I've never heard that concept.
Right. It's different. And I mean, that's like you looking at everything you do with money, what you invest, you see it, okay, if I invest this money, will it be profitable for my future?
Yeah, it's almost as you say it, it's like a done deal for you. Like I have money and I'm in this frequency and it's always going to make profit. It's always going to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you fall out of that frequency, or you've got doubt, or I mean, even the inkling where for a little while there, when I quit my business, I'd buy these things on Amazon and I would look at I'm like, dude, there's like 4 simple products in here and it's like $250. What? And that kind of point of view is not helping me pull in more wealth.
Mm.
And what I have found that when I consistently be this frequency of having this frequency of profitability, money is easy for me. It comes fast, frequent, and in abundance. And it hits, my like, wow, I can't believe that just happened. Do you see how I use that word?
Yes.
So for example, just 2 weeks ago, I got this huge affiliate check for a company that hasn't paid me in the last 12 years.
Oh my God.
And I feel that hitting states of hypnosis and falling into that frequency of being that money magnet, right, is some of the things that created that quote happening.
Mm.
And I love when magic happens in that way. And I feel like the only way that's going to happen is us being money, us being in these frequencies of profitability, us being in these frequencies of having. So the bigger question is, how do we program ourselves for wealth? How do we change our point of view around possibly a lifetime of history of lack or not having? Right?
Yeah, and that's the real question that some people really want to know is like, I seem to keep making the same mistakes because I'm not getting the results that I wish. And it's like, well, what are you really unconscious about with that and how that is? And just want to welcome Carrie Langdock here. I don't know why there it is. There's some reverb feedback when Jeneth is talking.
That's what I was afraid of. Do you want me to try to take off the headphones?
Yeah, let's do some experimentation. And Carrie, if you could just let us know.
Is that better or worse?
My end, it's better. You sound louder.
Well, it's worse for me because now I can't hear you.
I'll speak up then.
Let me put it to my MacBook.
If people have questions for Jeneth, please ask away.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Carrie says it's the same. I think maybe
I want to put my headphones back on.
Yeah. I'll take mine off. Are we any better with this? Because this is such an important show for people. People, I think, really have so much fear about money that they are desperately trying, or they're desperately believing in people that have that really teach them some miscues about it. They may be rich, or they may be on the facsimile or the ruse that they're rich. and we want to try to get something from them, like we trust that. But what you're saying is you have to learn how to trust yourself.
Well, or trust the frequency.
Trust the frequency.
Right? So inherently trust conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So strongly that there's only certainty around wealth coming. And most people don't get that concept. They aren't to the level of being that frequency where they can change in a dynamic way like that.
Yeah. And is it that for every person it's very unique in how they build that frequency? Is that a good assumption?
Well, I mean, your own point of view, right, Bart? We all have these fingerprints. So I sort of as a fingerprint. And what are the constructs, the lies, the teachings that they've had around money all their life? Right? Like, you know, if you have been around parents and even who they are, maybe they don't even talk about it, but they contract every time you go in a store because they feel or sense lack.
Yeah. Oh, we can't buy that. Oh, that's too expensive.
Right.
Look at that person with that mink coat over there. How could she have that kind of wealth?
I had a client once that said, I will never go into Neiman Marcus because it's like needless markups. And I was like, that's an interesting point of view. And we dove into that and I made her go in that store. And it wasn't that she didn't have the money for it. She was just taught that it was expensive and it was just expensive for no reason, right? So why would she ever even go there? And I think it's interesting as we, play with consciousness and the frequency of consciousness. Like we will easily see that, the universe has given us a birthright for wealth. But if we have all these inherent teachings and we're being vulnerable with ourselves and going, oh, yes, you're right. We will easily find that we have so many points of view that we get contracted. And with these points of views, I mean, that's pretty much like us being that radio frequency broadcasting out in the world. I don't have enough. I'm not worthy enough, right? Which is a collective consciousness point of view. That degree of I'm fraud or I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy enough. So, what do you do about this? Well, awareness first, right?
Yes.
Once you're aware of it. And then
and also wealth is different for everybody. This isn't all about having a six-figure income.
No, not at all.
It's different interpretation for everybody.
Well, and there's all these different words. There's money, wealth, abundance. That's why I kind of like playing with profitability, that actually as the frequency of being that it would always be profitable for my world. And not playing from the head, but playing from the heart, playing from the body, playing from me as that infinite being, broadcasting this frequency of, abundance into the world, right? It's just a really cool frequency. And I feel that for me, that frequency has really become about the frequency of worth. Right? Really knowing my worth, getting down to the grit and going, I am good enough, and anybody that tells me that I'm not, it's just going to bounce off me. It's not going to land because, at this time in my career and, now I've got proof of concept. I've seen all these different things that, I've created that have changed lives. And, and in doing that, I think it's, very much that, it's a play. And, I have been playing now with like changing any frequency. So if you want to be the frequency for love, right? If you want to find a mate, how do you become that adoring frequency within yourself? A lot of that time that starts with you being the frequency of totally, utterly loving you, right? And, if you want to be the frequency, for a beautiful fit body, a lot of that becomes you admiring your body, letting go of the judgments that you have around your body. And that means not just thinking them in the head, it means that truly being in love with your body. And the only way I've really found to change this part is through meditations, through truly changing your brain state from that high beta state, through alpha, where you're into your visual mind, down through those different components of theta and even gamma, right? Once you get into those states through meditation or hypnosis or, simple breath work, right?
Yes.
That is the only way that I've really found that you can really program these things. The other way is the harder way, right? Where you have awareness, oh, I need to change that frequency. Okay, well then every time I think about food, or money, right? Well, then I'm going to try to change the way I think about that.
Yeah, stop doing that. Yeah.
Right. Have the rubber band, ping, ping. This is why talk therapy doesn't really work in a lot of cases to change people, because they're not taking them into those relaxed states where the universe can get its word in edgewise.
Yes.
So I look at it, right? Because the universe doesn't speak to us until we drop into that frequency that matches consciousness.
So the meditation frequencies that you're talking about are really about connecting you to the wavelengths of this greater prosperity that you may not be connected to, and therefore you're in the flow, and therefore things happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like, well, it's like the universe has your back all the time, every single step of the way. But if you're not matching and connecting with the universe, then it's like, oh, you want lack in your life. Okay, well, here you go. I mean, right? Like it literally responds to the frequency that you are. And the hard part in this reality is getting your frequency on board.
Yes.
Once your frequency is on board, then action happens, inspired actions. I mean, we don't sit around and just, well, you might, Bart. You sit around and meditate all the time.
Well, it's a nice pastime for me.
Right?
But at the same time, it's like I was mentioning to you earlier, I've been doing this dance discipline where since July 1st, I've probably danced. That's almost a 3-month period. And I have danced probably 75 out of the 90 days, something like that. Last 36 out of 37. But what it does is it makes my body feel alive and vibrant. And as I move and dance, I just feel really great about it. It's given me a centeredness in me. with that. And I have no idea where this is going to take me, except I feel really good doing it.
Yeah. Well, and that is the guidance, right? Go, like, if it feels good, go there. If it doesn't feel good, then go the other way.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the reality of, do you work out of force and density and judgment, and you push on ahead and you keep pushing and you try harder and there's a lot of sweat in that? Or do you include some other variables that make it a more whole and full concept?
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of funny because even when I'm building projects, I do a lot of podcasting like you do, and I'll like send invitations out and then I'll get responses back. And sometimes I'll do interviews and be like, oh, this is just like a miserable slow. I can't do it, you know? And there's others that I'm like, leave, and I'm like, wee, and I realized that that's, my awareness pinging to the nth. Usually
Yes.
the ones where I've got that low vibe, I might as well not even like put it out into the world, because it's just it's not worth it, right? Because there's all this extra marketing and this, that, and the other. And sometimes I don't even, because it's just such a weighted conversation where, I mean, I'm here and I know you are too, Bart, and that's why we kind of have met and played in the same sandbox, is because we are here to be the bridges to help people create through consciousness, to live their best lives and their dream lives through consciousness. And we've got two different ways of going about it, but we still have that is like us at our core. And once you get to what your purpose is in this world, when you try to go the other way, universe will always turn you around and be like, no, you are going to be miserable. Go back. Do your purpose. And that's what
Yes.
I found over these years. And being the leader of changing your frequency, and is that I'm always going to be turned back around, because universe is like, hell no.
Exactly. And it's also a component is that, as you've made the request, it's like you're the first one to say, if I am messing up in life, I want a greater voice that exists inside of me, that's connected to so much more than me, to, kind of slap me in the face if necessary. But I don't, I'm willing to have that. And so many people are so protected of their weaknesses and their limitations that they never want to hear that type of feedback. And they use a lot of energy keeping themselves contained in that little box. We're both ready to be jack slapped if necessary to get us to the next level.
Well, it's sort of like that analogy of like, well, do you want the little like whisper nudging you the other way, or do you want to be hit by the Mack truck?
Yes.
Right? I'm really good at paying attention to the whispers lately, because I'm like, no,
Mack trucks are
truck is
painful.
evil, man. They can really bring it.
Yes, yes. And, it's always good to keep asking those questions. It's like, oh, what is this limitation about? And, what am I not getting about this? And it's always amazing how the answers show up. So we're
there's a
close
lot
to...
of vulnerability to get to the point where to ask and talk about these things.
Yeah. Vulnerability is an interesting word. In a lot of ways, it's being open and willing to see anything possible. But it's kind of like, I'm going to let myself be totally exposed.
Yeah.
So the answer has plenty of opportunity to show up.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree that I think it's just such a great word for, you know, looking at your shit. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're about midpoint in the show, and I just want to say that this is United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network on Roku, Facebook, YouTube, and other platforms all around the world. And we have Jeneth Blackert here. Uh, I love your email. Let's see, what is it called? Attraction Diva. That's really you. And also, you can find Jeneth on jeneth.com or money.realrawyou.com. She always comes up with the juiciest little topics there. And I'm Bart Sharp. You can find me at bartsharp.com and Mary Magdalene France Tours. And if you have comments or questions, please type them in and send them our way. We're ready, really ready to field some. And I think we have somebody with a comment here. Here we go. This is from Carrie Longdock. The stream always spins you around back downstream, right direction once you let go of struggling against the current.
Yeah. But it's sort of like the Tao of Pooh, right? Like, you know, where you just get to float down, you know, follow the stream versus trying to like swim upstream.
Yeah.
Love that. How beautiful. It's beautifully said.
It is. And sometimes when we have a fear about something and we are saying, I am going to avoid that fear at all cost. I hate this. This is awful. This person is terrible. They're bad for the world. Whatever judgment there is. All of that is based in fear. And just think about all the energy you use to push that fear in there, which is like going upstream. And what if you could just see what that fear really was for you and then do something really crazy and be able to receive that fear?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you have to go to bed with it. Like, if you hate somebody, you don't have to go to bed with a rattlesnake per se, but you can receive them. And that is about letting go of all your resistance.
Yeah. I've got some questions around it, you know, that like, you know, really looking at it. And oftentimes when you ask, like, you know, when a fear comes up, even like usually when fear comes up, I don't know about you, Bart, and your clients, but most people don't identify it as fear. They usually identify it as resistance. You know, like it's not, you know, unless it's like inherent, like it's a spider, man. And but yeah, I mean, even with the fun spider examples, like if you are to go, you know, okay, so spider, there's an animal there, and then there's you.
Yes.
And then in between you two, there's this frequency of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And if you simply are like, what is this? You will get an awareness. And it's usually, you know, somebody will be like, gosh, I was 5 years old and my mom squealed at a spider. And like sometimes people will have like this whole story. And then there's other people's that'll kind of have like sensations within their body. And I usually find that it's one or two. It's either, you know, some people do the narrative and other people do, like find it within the frequency of their body. They're like, oh, okay, well, it's like this contraction around my throat or my heart. It's that it's dangerous. It could kill me, right? Like some of these guys are poisonous and yikes. And whether it's money or a spider, you know, it's like, okay, so, you know, who does this belong to? Is usually the next question from that. Because you weren't born with it.
Yeah.
right? And it's not when you are being oneness, wholeness, whatever word you love to use, right? When you're being oneness, you're not afraid. And even if you were bit, well, then you just take the action steps to take care of it, you know?
Yes.
Even if you were, even for the people that have this lack or this frequency of lack, when it really comes down to it, you know, well, are you gonna be homeless? I mean, like, what are we talking about, this lack?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people,
Yes.
you
It's
know.
almost like, what is your worst fear that you're really scared of? Can you really identify what that is? It's different for everybody.
Yeah, it's very different for everyone from my work with people. Like, they
It,
are, you know, so many people have, it just doesn't, and it's always doesn't make sense, right? Like, it
yes.
makes sense to them, but usually even when they speak it, it's like, I didn't know that was in there, you know? And
It it
then,
it
yeah,
is, and you work with individuals, but also you teach all different classes, forms of classes. Um, you've gone through a lot of changes throughout the years with this. So to me, I always see you as somebody that has looked at it from a lot of different things. It wasn't that you were just going to go out into the world and go, I want to make a lot of money, you know, and I make this much every year. That's not what it's all about for you. It's like a curious journey that
yeah,
includes so much.
yeah. Well, and, I also find that when I get to a certain level of money, I don't really care that I keep making money, right? Like, I like the abundance, but I'm not really. I think abundance then for me is also the abundance of time, the abundance of
Yes.
being able to be with my family and, take care of the home and the whole shebang. Like, I love
Hmm.
this work, but I've also found what's really true for me, which is, really why I'm made the Real Raw You, which I think you helped me name way back in the day, because, like, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what I was thinking about. No, it's being a little naughty.
Well, it is kind of named a little naughty like that, but
But
that's what makes it fun and curious for people to, I mean, because I think curiosity is fun on both sides. Like,
yes,
what is this really? What is this really about? And that's why people get interested in
yeah,
various things,
exactly.
right?
And
Yeah.
one of the characteristics, I don't know if it's transferring over today over the internet, but it's you have a very strong second chakra. And it's like you're a happily married woman for, forever. Let's not go into the years or ages.
30.
30 years. Okay. And yet you have this vibrancy of just sexual energy that isn't done in a flirtatious way. You're not trying to seduce somebody with it, but yet whenever I talk to you, it's always there and it's always pleasurable to be around.
Well, I've really worked on my chakra system too. Like, I bless each
Mm,
of these energy centers, That's just the one that's probably the most open because I have explored I have explored orgasm on all levels of my life. I'm almost like, how can I be a living orgasm? And I do think that
mm,
that is a wealth attractor, right?
indeed.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
because
does.
it's like that, it's even the fun factor, right? Because I mean, things are easy for me in life in general. I'm always in play. I don't really feel struggle that often. Struggle is real when I feel it. But in general, once I kind of got calibrated to create and be the creator that I was born to be, things are relatively simple for me. And I can just, it's almost like a light switch. I'm going to switch it on and say, let's go. And the flow comes, and it often comes also with money.
Indeed. And if you're listening right now and you're in that question of like, well, there's areas in my life that are not complete like this, what can you learn from Jeneth? And one thing is find out what your powers are and embrace them. Really acknowledge what they are. And allow that to be part of your identity and to relish, and then grow from there. You're always growing. And that's one of the beauties of what I've seen your work. You have just embraced so many projects over the years. I mean, you weren't even a writer, per se, but then you just decided that during the summertime you would write a novel, Falling in Stilettos, and you sold a lot of copies.
So here's another, from a business perspective, especially, well, maybe not a business perspective, but when you decide something, I really feel like that's the key to create, right? Because it was almost like I just decided one day to be a novelist. I want to write a novel. I'm going to be a novelist, right? And I just decided it. And I've also decided to be a digital marketer. And then I've also decided to sell puppy products on Amazon, right? And then I also decided to, I am like the queen of reinvention in a way, because, I can decide today I'm a business coach and I'm going to talk all about digital marketing. Today I'm want to just play with meditation and programming frequency, right? And that is very much how I am. My website pretty much says, look, I'm not one thing, because I don't want to be one thing, for one. And I like being able to meet people where they are and, help them discover what's next for them. And if that requires actual task, for digital marketing, that's great. And if it is like frequency change or even just distressing, right? People with health problems. Back one time I had 8 sessions with this woman, right, for 8 weeks. And, she wanted to get pregnant. And she gave me credit for getting her pregnant. And I was like, I think your husband might have had something to do with that. And she's like, I know, but I was so stressed out and unable to receive and nurture and really be me that I really feel that I had to find the nurture inside of me before I could conceive. And I thought that, talk about evolved. The way that she responded to that, I just thought it was so beautiful.
It's another form of wealth, by the way.
Totally, right? Well, having what you want in life is wealth, right? If you want a baby and you want to build a family of your own, I think that's a huge category of wealth. It's like, I think that one of the questions that I'd ask the audience is, what is it that you desire that you don't think that you can have?
I'm going to ask that again for the audience. What do you desire that you do not think you can have?
Because the point of view is, I can't have it. So if that's the point of view, of course the universe wouldn't have your back and deliver that to you.
I want to add another question to
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
What do you, in that reality that there's things that you desire and you feel like you can't have, what do you feel other people are judging you as due to that?
Because that would also be that person's point of view.
Yes. And yes, it would.
Love
They would
that.
be holding that. And that's one of the biggest limitations is how do you feel people are judging you? And that little reality with that.
And is the way people are the way you think people see you, is that even true?
Yes.
And then people will say, yes, it's true too. They're like, I know it's true. People have told me it's true. So then it's like, great, well, let's change your frequency so that they're, you're not judging them, judging you with that. It's almost like
Yes.
how it is, right?
The fear of having somebody judge you is one of the biggest limitations with
Yeah.
it. I just did
Well,
a
it
presentation under a tree at this group that's called the Monkey Tree. Every Sunday morning we do something metaphysical, and they asked me to do something. And you know, one person just got up and left in the middle of the thing, and went on to go swim. That's what we do afterwards. And the other person, kind of at the end, just started saying, "Well, this meditation, the earth already knows this information," and just went on this rambling escapade. Uh, and for me, it was about, well, I can be rejected.
well,
And that's totally okay.
yeah, so you could take that point of view a lot of different ways. You could even go, nobody likes me and I'm going to go home, right? I mean, you could have totally and like ruined your entire day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
I
you
kind
could
of
be
like,
like, that's an interesting point of view that they have that point of view,
and
you
there
know.
wasn't anything to learn from it, with the exception of, well, they just didn't want to stay. And okay, it had nothing to do with me. They just didn't
Probably.
like the presentation that I was doing because it was a very out there meditation, which is
Or
generally what I
maybe they
do.
were just antsy to move.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always different, you know. I don't have to figure any of that out. What I do, what benefits me is to enjoy the process and be fully in that moment of that time.
You're really
And
good at staying in your own lane, right? You're like, this is what I do, this is my expertise, and y'all can get out of my own way.
yeah, and it's exactly like that's you too. It's like, well, if you want to get onto this ship and play and have this certainty of my expertise of what I know, here it is. And certainty is a really good word because in my definition of certainty, it's a knowing that you feel deep inside of your body, and you have
Mm,
to cultivate it. And as you said earlier in the show, I learned a certainty of money.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that, I feel very fortunate now that, my dad, every time I was 16 years old and I was working at Domino's Pizza, and he would take my, you know, like 10% of every single paycheck, he would grab it and put it in a savings account that I couldn't access.
Wow.
And I was like, kind of felt like he was stealing from me. But he would show me, he's like, look, this money is still here. And he'd be like, no, you have to know what it's like to have money. And he's like, what if you'd never made that 10% and never even knew that it was there in the first place? And so
Right.
that was kind of one of the ways that I was forcefully taught to save.
You could have been spending out a McDonald's hamburger. Come on.
I know, right? I mean, I feel that, I'm really lucky. Like, he taught me all the money rules from there's a great book, it's called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it's like a classic. And, it was like the money Bible to him. It might as well it like sat right next to the Bible. And
Yes.
he just was like, this is the way. And he was right. And it got me to the point that, I never just, I always pay attention to money. And I always have paid attention to money.
And just to reiterate this, when you save money, you're telling the universe that you deserve to have money, and some more comes your way.
Well, it makes you feel that you have money, and that's the frequency, right? It also makes you feel that you're building profit. So you've got profitability, right? And
Yes.
and those two frequencies are ones that I really love to play with, because those seem to be the frequencies that make it even come faster. Yeah.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a fun way to do it. I like to think of all of this financial stuff almost like a Monopoly game, or even this radio show. It's like a Monopoly game where I try to get interesting people. If I have problems, I do my best to try to fix them. And kind of, when you play Monopoly, you know that, you know, eventually you're going to put the board up and you're going to go do something else. So it has a certain detachment from it. But you always do your best when you're playing. And yeah.
Yeah, you pay attention to money when you're playing Monopoly. Why not the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a media firm, and my business partner in that firm, she, I mean, I don't know if she's ever going to save any money. She has invested in a home, but it's very clear that, she didn't look at money like I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes
One
everywhere.
of the things that's impressed me is like, because you were making, when I first met you, you were saying, well, yeah, I'm pulling down $500,000 a year, or around that, maybe a little bit more. But you still make all your decisions almost by the energy. It's not logic to you. You have logic. You've done a lot of logical thinking and formulating, and done your research on stuff. But it really just comes down to your gut.
Yeah. By the time you met me, it did. It wasn't like that before you met me.
Yeah,
But
you went through fire. I know that, but you also came
yeah.
out on the other side.
Yeah. The other thing with my dad is there was a time in like 2006 or 7 that I had to borrow $2,000 for him for new tires for my car. And it was like, great, but if you don't make payments every single month to pay this back, and if you don't pay it off in 3 months, then you will be charged 10% interest, right? Which is like, well, it's easier than getting a bank loan. So, let's do this. And, I would always pay him back right away. There would be no excuse. And I would feel like I was letting him down. So there's some harshness within this too. But yeah, there were times so when I left my corporate job, I had a nest egg of about $150,000, and I spent all of that and another 50K in about 2 years, just, somewhat living my life, but also learning, right? Like I was going to these marketing conferences. I was learning how to do these things that I now do and now teach people to do. And, at that point in my life, I also was like unsure, had a lot of doubt, had a lot of lack. And my husband trapped me against the bathroom wall one day and told me, it's like, look, you have taken your 2 years to learn this, to invest this. If you don't know it now, there might be no hope. Like, he was just doing it to trigger me. And he said, look, you've got 6 weeks, get a job.
Mm.
And if I didn't make money in those 6 weeks, I was going to have to get a job.
So what happened to your body when that happened? What happened internally?
I think I went into like flight. I was like, and all the judgment went away. Like, I wasn't stopping myself because I was prejudging myself. It was like roaring. I'm not getting a job in corporate. And so
that sounds like that's where the slam went, like, and that foundation of strength was built. Like, I'm going to create enough strength that I'm going to do the next thing to make this happen.
Yeah, it was like that, right? And sometimes you got to go. That's almost the universe speaking through him to me.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have that strength now, though, because you've
it is yourself. Me now. Yeah, I think it's become me.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeneth and I've been friends for
10 years,
something maybe. Like that. Yeah. And we've watched each other with our value systems and how we've approached things. So I kind of know. I'm manipulating
some very vulnerable sides
to get
about
the
me
most
too.
Juicy answers. Yeah, but it's just like that ground floor of your strength is very firm, it's strong, and you're very comfortable with it. It flows easy, and that's through experience, but also, as you said, it's naturally you. And we have to learn how to be comfortable with that, as opposed to being in an anxious place with it.
Yeah. I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and in complimenting you too, I mean, you've been, the earth beneath my wings sometimes when I've went into craziness too, right? Well, you're like, you always get the awareness.
We both have different perspectives.
Very different ways to go about it, but we still get that we're guided and connected.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. So I want you to get this a moment's thought, because I'm going to do kind of ending announcements. But what if you end it with just a word of advice that you would give anybody that's wanting to make that next big step out into their life? You think about that. As I'll tell everybody that we have Jeneth Blackert here today on New Frequencies of Wealth. And my name is Bart Sharp, and this is Becoming Quantum Consciousness. You can find me on bartsharp.com, and Mary Magdalene France Tours. His tour season is coming up in the spring of 2024, and there's still open slots. Jeneth, you can find Jeneth at jeneth.com or at money.realrawyou.com. And next week we have Mikey Volnick, and we will be exploring the mystical transformations of Southwest France, as Mikey is one of my French friends that is fearless in her spiritual journey. And we'll be exploring some of those sacred sites together. And I wish I was there, but now I'm in Texas. So with that said, what can you give to the audience, Jeneth, of parting thoughts?
I think the big question is, if you know that you can program your frequencies for what you want, would you be willing to take the time to do so? And how might you go about that?
Indeed.
I mean, I think that, this is like, a lot of people can help you with this, taking you down through the river, through the river, over the river, past the river, right? So what do you choose?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one, to take that step and keep taking the next step after that. It was wonderful having you on the show, Jeneth.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
hope to have
Yeah.
you again. And yes?
Well, I was just gonna say that, if you guys do want to try out my money course, I'm happy to put in a 30-minute clarity session around it if it's something that calls you. So just thought I'd step it in there. If you tell me
Yes.
you come from Bart's
What?
show, then you've got that
Yeah.
too.
Okay. That sounds wonderful. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. And thank you, Jeneth. And wish everybody really well. Bye for now.